So one of the softwares you're going to be using a lot for journalism is called Trello. And it's a super helpful software to keep us organized as a class because a lot of what we do is really dynamic and you each have different roles and you're working on very unique things. So it's unlike a lot of other classes where everyone's kind of doing the same thing. So you're going to need to download the Trello app. And it looks like this guy right here with two lines, one that is shorter than the other, and I will tap it and open it up. Now you're going to get an email invite from me, so you won't see this screen right away. And that email invite will come from Taco at Trello. Why, I'm not really sure, but that's where it comes from. So if you see Taco at Trello, don't be alarmed. You will simply accept the invitation, and then you'll be here on your iPad. If you're on a computer, it looks a little bit different than this, but on your iPad, where most of you will experience this, this is what it looks like. And the basic idea behind Trello is I create a board for us as a class to use, and it has different categories on that board. And imagine these as like spaces on the board where you can then put kind of sticky notes, like living sticky notes. And so what you can see here already is this is cycle number 1, Jesuit Chronicle 2020. So this is our first cycle, the first time we're going through all these articles. And the first thing you're going to be doing is offering pitches, which is the first board here where you'll add a card to. First category. Then you're going to have in process, needs editing from an editor, submitted via PDF on Canvas, assignment for grading, past articles, and long form articles. Again, some of those you won't be doing at first and or throughout the semester, others you will. Here are different story ideas that I've identified that you guys will all add to as well. So that's what it looks like. You can scroll you just using your finger going back and forth, so it's pretty convenient. And what your first assignment is going to be, and just the process of working through this, is you'll add a card. And what a card looks like, let me tap on this completed one, this completed example. This is what a card looks like. So it gives an overview of what it's talking about. So here it's giving the newsworthiness, what section it would appear in, the research. All of that is in an assignment. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, that is laid out really clearly in an assignment. Then on there, you actually set the due date. The one requirement for a due date is that it needs to be before the end of the cycle. So you, as the writer, set your due date because, again, we're on a website, so it's very organic versus when we were in paper form, it was a really hard deadline. Then you're going to set a color category, and that color category is going to relate to what section it goes in the paper. Then you can add members. So right now there's only me on it, but you can add anyone from class. So that's a great place to add, for instance, an editor, someone you want to work with who's going to edit your article. Then if you wanted to, you could add a checklist. The checklist here, for instance, is already in existence. So I'm going to delete this new one. And it talks about interviews. So I'm going to interview Scout, Dave teacher, who's an expert. And I want to also interview a new student to journalism class to give a different voice to the experience. Then it's really nice because as I work through my article, I can tap this and say, okay, I've completed Scout's interview, I've completed Dave's interview, etc. And then notice down below, it gives all of the activity that's been going on here, which is really, really nice. And this is where you could actually add a comment to me and say, you know, something along the lines of a note to, for instance, your teacher here. So I might say something like, you know, hey, at Dan Faulkner, there we go. My article is struggling with interviews. Can you help? So, and by doing that, it's going to alert me because notice it's linked there. It's going to alert me through email and through just a push on the app and say, hey, this is what's going on for me. So that's what the card looks like at the end. To create the card, you're going to click on Add Card. And you just have to give it a title, first of all. And again, it's really nice here because they give us all these little how-to things. So hopefully this is redundant. And you're going to simply say beat, colon, and then whatever that beat is. So let's pretend it is something like no football this year in Cronin Stadium. And specifically, you want to talk about something like what happens to lost concession revenue, something like that. Then you're going to add your description in there, and you'll type that description. And again, on that assignment, it explains it fully. And then just going down through that list, you can add your due date, your labels, your members, a checklist, and any attachments. Now, the key thing here under attachments is that's where you're going to add your Google Doc. And all of our writing this year is going to work through Google Docs, and there'll be a separate video on how you create your Google Doc. And you're going to add the attachment to this card. The key thing is make sure you open your Google Doc up for editing. People need to be able to edit it. And again, it makes sure to memorize and remember who edited what, so you shouldn't be scared of someone going in there and messing with it for you, because it's completely tracked who did what to your article. So you're going to add that link here. When it says add attachments, you're going to say attach a link, and then you're going to create that link onto your article. So that's ultimately what it will look like for me, the teacher, and for the editors who are editing this. Then once your beat's complete, what you can do is you can actually tap it and drag it over to in process. And in process means your beat has been approved by Mr. Faulkner and the editors, and you're ready to go. You're ready to start writing on it. So before you start your process of writing, make sure your pitch gets approved. Then, once it's in process, you've written it, you feel pretty good about it, that's when you're going to give it to an editor. And you're going to actually tag someone in that, right? So you're going to click on this, and you're going to say, let me tag an editor and make sure that they see this, because it's your responsibility to get that edited by an editor. Then, when you're all done with that, you're actually going to export your Google Doc as a PDF and submit it to Canvas for grading. So then you're going to click this and move it to it is submitted for grading. And at that point, I'm grading your article and you get points for it. And then when it's all done, you're going to move it over to past articles. Now, the one not normal version of this would be if you did long form articles. And that's going to be just a few of you, hopefully all of you, but it's going to be a semester long process. That's like a real research heavy work. So don't worry about that for this kind of overview of Trello. We'll talk about that in class a lot more. But that's the basic functions of Trello. Again, the key thing is that you're linking things, that you're pointing it out to people. You're making sure it's known, because what can happen here a little bit is it feels like it ends up getting lost amid all of the movement here. So you don't want that to happen.